Good morning, or not, whenever you're watching this. Today's match, we have Paradicus versus HeliosAflame. I believe Paradicus's name on the tournament sheet is Petersonian. HeliosAflame's name is HeliosAflame. Petersonian's team is New 13, Luciya, Vega, from seasons 5, 2, and 3 respectively. That's Blaze Blue, 7th Cross, and Street Fighter. HeliosAflame's team is Seijun, King Knight, Rachel, from seasons 2, 4, and 5. That's 7th Cross, Shovel Knight, and Blaze Blue, respectively. For those not terribly familiar with tournament format, they are currently setting up the hidden zones, which I will switch to TTS. Here we go. Alright. So, they're using the hidden character selection zones to take their team of 3, put them into a hidden bag, move it onto the board, and then reveal, so that neither of them knows who the other player has selected. That is what we refer to as a blind pick or a blind selection. It doesn't mean that you're blind to your own character selection, it means your opponent is blind to yours and you're blind to theirs. So, Alright, so for first round's going to be a Season 2 matchup. We have Luciya versus Seijun. A couple of different transformation characters. This should be interesting. Alright. I will be remaining as spectator. I'm here primarily just to stream and provide a record. I'll be available to answer rules questions, of course, if needed. But I'm doing this for fun, essentially. This is the, I believe, second rounds? Yeah, second rounds of the tournament, which is a Swiss format tournament, by the way, not an elimination tournament. So everyone will get to fight all they want to. Players toss. We can't really tell who won the coin toss, but we can tell who is going first. Petersonian goes first, draws 5. Seijun goes second, draws 6. Actually, draws 8. That's because Seijun's character ability says, draw 2 additional cards in your starting hands. I'll leave that up for you all to read. While I'm at it, here's Luciya's ability. Whenever Luciya moves past the opponent, that is inside or outside of strikes, by the way, she does non-lethal damage, and she may add the top card of her discard pile to her gauge. It's kind of nice. Note that during strikes, all damage dealt contributes toward guard break. So, if she is 1 damage shy, but she moves past you during the strike, that will stun. I'm trying to think what that's most relevant for. Probably... well, probably Ride the Lightning anything. It's actually going to matter more this game than most, I think, because Seijun's ability gives her interesting increments of guard. Alright, and here joining me is ReggiesWarOnEverything.
Hello, stream.
There we are.
I was pretty confident Helios would open with Seijun, because Seijun's quite good.
Yeah, she's a strong, stable character. She gets a bunch of cards, which means it's pretty hard for her to be inconsistent. A little bit of extra guard can also come in handy against Luciya.
Yeah, very good into Luciya. The turn 1 parry from Petersonian. Yeah, that's actually fair.
This is a standard opener against Seijun.
Yeah.
Like, turn 1 parry Inari Guidance to get rid of that transformation is pretty good.
Yeah. And it's really hard for Seijun to land that attack against Luciya, so if you can get 1 down, there's no way you EX transform that, so...
Yep. Yeah, Luciya's notable for being a very evasive character, so getting... and Seijun has guards, so she's probably not going to get stuns, but it doesn't really help her that much if Luciya just dodges everything anyway. Luciya boosts +3 speed.
Yeah, I think Luciya's win in this match is to not trade as much as possible, and Seijun wins by doing the opposite.
Seijun spends 2 force, discarding an Ultra. That is for the move action. She advances 2. Ends her turn.
That's a pretty good choice, honestly. Like, I rarely see Seijun, play the Ultras, so...
So typically range 2 is considered a bad place to be if your opponent has a lot of extra speed. However, it is also considered Luciya's worst range. So I'm not sure which way this is going to actually shake out. Think so? Plus 3 speed spike? Well, that's almost unbeatable.
On curve, yeah. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't play it, is the thing.
Oh. This is really interesting, because Seijun actually has enough guards to not get stunned here.
Which is bad for her.
Yeah, she goes to range 3 and puts herself in the corner.
Yep.
Which is kind of awkward. Seijun would probably prefer to be melee.
Yeah, particularly since Luciya now has advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think she's a lot better at 3 than she is at 1. Well, a lot's a strong word, but better at 3.
Mm-hmm. It definitely works out more to her advantage if she could, if she was, what I'm trying to say, if Seijun was not in the corner, it would be better for Luciya. Luciya prefers for her opponent to be toward the middle and for herself to be in the corner. She's one of the only characters who does like to be in the corner, actually. Vega being the other one that comes to mind.
I mean, yeah. Anytime you're against Luciya, you do kind of want the corner just to stop her jumping over you.
Yep. Seijun tends to kind of put herself in awkward positions because her mobility isn't great. She only has one attack, one special or ultra, I should say, with movement on it, and it's the Inari Guidance that you saw earlier. Inari Guidance, by the way, is as a before effect, you may advance as far as possible. So you either advance 0 or 8, which say you either stay where you are or you move to a corner, which is kind of awkward.
You can play it turn 1 to... Yeah. Oh, I was actually reading the...
I would have called Ink Splash there.
Yeah, I was calling Ink Splash. So
Reggie and I got the wrong read there. Good call, Petersonian. Yeah, let me...
I don't know if I would have...
Using Splash, by the way. I'm just going to put them on screen for a sec.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Which would have been speed 7.
Mm-hmm. And then using Spike, which is power 7.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if Seijun had landed it, it'd be really good because it has a good transform on it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Luciya backs up to range.
4 force.
I believe she prepared afterward, and yeah, Seijun spends 4 to move in because she cannot afford to stay at long range forever. She is... Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we are shy an end of turn draw on Seijun's side, but I will not be interjecting to correct rules issues unless the players request. Just making that clear.
If I see something that utterly breaks game state, I'll yell, but I don't think I'll interject. So, as Luciya, I've only played against the one Luciya, but against the same one a lot. Reading block. What do you think this is? I think this might be a bug zap.
Let me ask their preference. Well, for a second I thought that was a block. That's a focus. All right. Okay, we have 2 copies of Yokai Banishing in hand. That's probably gonna get transformed in it here. Got the Ink Spike and the Ink Splash. Not a very strong hand for Seijun. I guess you could EX Yokai and it's pretty darn safe.
Yeah, especially since a focus was just played. Like,
yeah, reading block strongly implies Spike. On the other hand, it could just mean that Luciya wants a guaranteed transformation.
Yeah, I thought Bug Zapper for, a bunch of gauge, and that transform, which is not good, but Luciya, in my experience, wants to exceed. So, having any transforms is helpful there.
It is the Yokai. Oh, it was the Spike. Okay.
It's the Spike. Push 2, do you draw 1?
1, 2, yeah. I mean, technically she could have chosen to push 3. Push 1 3 times, but
yeah,
pretty questionable call if she had done that, so.
don't know what's going on here.
I think they're just explaining what just happened exactly. So push one, draw one.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't see the draw one, but I trust that no one would make the mistake of choosing not to draw.
Well, I think if, on the other hand, if I'm right about them missing the turn draw, that means that they just chose to push 3 and now the game stage is prepared.
Yeah,
it's not
fine.
Quite how that works, but eh. Alright.
We're not professionals.
No. We'll leave it to the players. Let's see, that makes it Seijun's turn. She drops the second ink spike. That removes a pretty important mix-up threat.
Bad. That mix-up threat and a really important transform, in my opinion. Because having played against Helios, he likes to exceed with Seijun and then just throw EX attacks with range and power.
Makes sense.
You know, really good. And not getting the extra power hurts quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm in spectator mode, so I can't look at the undersides of the cards. But Seijun's Exceed, suffice to say, if you want cards, you got them. She draws all the cards that you could possibly want.
Now you have to kill the opponent before you deck yourself out, but with that transform, it's definitely possible.
Yep, because you start having X attacks consistently, and you start having +2 power on all of them that you want, and it's pretty ridiculous. Alright, both players spending some time building up. They've reloaded their hands. This boost, by the way, goes to engage at the end of the turn after you play it, so because Luciya did not strike, it's engaged now.
Which really telegraphs not good things about that hand.
Yeah, and it implies she didn't have a dive.
Yeah.
On the other hand, with 2 gauge, she now can play Ride the Lightning whenever she wants, which is something Seijun simply cannot catch. Well, short of our hard read.
Yeah.
Short of a hard read. Yeah. A dive does catch Ride the Lightning, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, because...
Yeah, I'm going to look at Ride the Lightning over here.
Yeah.
Maybe that yokai could warp this game a little bit. It means, for example, that because Seijun, Seijun kept that focus, right? And keeping a known normal is usually bad. But she's literally immune to reading at the moment, because if Luciya tries to reading, Seijun could just discard a copy with this transformation. Oh, it is Ride the Lightning.
Into Ink Splash. Yeah.
That was successful,
really
yeah.
Unfortunate, yeah. That's one too many spaces.
There we go, they got it.
Yeah, that really hurts to lose an Ink Splash.
Yep, so 3 of the 4 quote-unquote mix-up cards are down, which means there is no mix-up anymore. Seijun is either being fast or she's playing a normal, is what it amounts to. Alright, she's going to get a little closer.
A bad mix-up, but
true.
Not.
Normals are still good.
Yeah. Some of the time they're the best cards in the game.
Yeah, Seijun moves a little closer. Seijun making a pretty common set of tactical plays to hold the center. Something I like to say is heavy tug the center. So right now she is the less evasive, higher damage character. So she's going to try to stick to the middle 3 spaces, which prevents Luciya from getting too far away. And that is currently what she's doing, is making sure to control that space. Luciya drops the bugs after moves to range 1. Interesting.
Yeah.
Probably suggests she has a focus, a sweep, or maybe a grasp or EX grasp, but hard to say for sure.
But to be fair, we know Luciya doesn't really like range 2, particularly with her back to the wall like that.
That's true. No room to cross out.
Yeah. So at least at range 1, you've got a bit more safe options, I guess. And notably, Seijun at range 1 doesn't have anything that ignores armor, I believe.
She doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't have anything in her kit that ignores armor other than the normal spike. And going to range 1 means you can't get spiked, because spike doesn't hit at range 1. And you can't get spiked, which makes sweep safe. Because she's out of ink spikes, not because it doesn't hit.
Yeah.
So she dropped that.
The more she does, the more I think, the more I like it.
Okay,
so
transforming Ninetail with an action is interesting. Most people wouldn't do this because this attack is considered pretty good, and this transformation is usually low value because it's hard to get fewer cards as Seijun without using the other transformations to spend resources. On the other hand, a range 1 and 2 attack is not good at hitting Luciya. She'll evade virtually all the time. The telegraph.
And if you're trying to rush the exceed too, getting that extra 2 off is worth some value.
This telegraph's talent sweep, by the way.
Grasp?
It is the talent sweep, yeah.
I misread that card.
Everyone misreads this card. It is the law of exceed that talent sweep cannot be read correctly.
So hit, advance 4. Now, correct me on the timing, D. Does she draw for her ability when she crosses up or after the end of the hit effect? Not draw.
I know what you mean, yeah. It is during the hit effect, which means talent sweep should be in the gauge right now. This is commonly misplayed, so we may actually see a timing error here. We'll see in a second.
So you can technically spend the talent sweep here.
Yep. So she advances 4, adds the top of her discard to her gauge, which is the talent sweep. Then she may spend a force for power, and since that that second talent sweep is in her gauge, she could spend it as force, which is kind of an interesting interaction.
I don't think I would do it, but you could.
Yeah. This is a great transformation for Luciya. She tends to be good at being faster than the opponents, but she lacks power. So if she's faster and she knows you're not going to hit her back, or if she needs to crush your guard, grandstanding is the way to go. This is really good for her.
Yeah, and that is a bit of a double-edged sword against Seijun, though, because Seijun is so tanky. If she can't be certain she's going to evade it, it's a lot harder to use, because it's a lot harder to stun.
This is true. And I do think there is 1 copy of Ink Splash left, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
which
think
means there is still
spikes are down.
A fast card, an incredibly fast card. But for example, something like Ride the Lightning, that transformation is often just guaranteed to work. Oh, okay, here we have grandstanding. That is a +1 power attack.
Yeah, I feel like this is the other Ride the Lightning.
This is a little scary.
Yeah. And if you can get that Inari Guidance transformed, suddenly Seijun becomes a lot scarier. But it's not happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
This is some really good Luciya play, I'll be honest.
Okay, alright, here's Ride the Lightnings. Okay, this is fine for Seijun. So this was a guaranteed Ride the Lightning, but on the other hand, it's not really getting value into this block. Luciya needs to spend the 2 gauge, and then the top of her discard will go to her gauge, so she...
What? Wrong order. That's absolutely impossible.
Yeah, hold on a minute.
Okay.
They're correct.
Just realized.
There we go, yeah. So this is important because adding the top of her discard means if you don't maintain your discard order, you can easily warp the game state from what it's supposed to be. And what we just saw happen was, so she paid the 2 gauge, and the second card she paid, because you paid them in whatever order you want, right, was the first copy of Ride the Lightning, which means when she crossed over, that Ultra went back to her gauge, so she still has a nice little bank of force here. This is important because when you're up against when you're running any footsies at all against anyone, which means most Exceed characters, having extra force around is great.
Yeah, and I mean, I love those little optimization tricks.
Mm-hmm. All right, Seijun closed 1 with the move action, or advanced 1 with the move action, and then both players preps, so they're kind of reset to neutral, trying to decide what to do next.
This game feels like a lot's happened for such little damage occurring.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Preemptive spike?
Preemptive something.
Dive. I think it might be dive.
Well, we didn't see a grandstanding, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So that suggests spike, because grandstanding would actually make spike lose to Ink Splash.
Yeah. And then you have to play Ink Splash, right? Because it beats the dive.
Oh, this is interesting.
And that.
Alright, it was the Ink Splash. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Ink Splash was the right call there because the grandstanding didn't occur.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Oh, and I think that's actually a good idea. This is a good transform, but having the ability to play more copies of that in the next shuffle, it's 2 instead of 1, I think is worth its weight in gold.
Yep, I'm also going to take a zoom in on Mantis Strike so y'all know what was played. Yes, the Mantis Strike was speed 6. It lost to the speed 7 Ink Splash, excuse me. Got stunned because it has no defenses. But yeah, Ink Splash, this is now the 4th of the Ink series of cards in Seijun's kit going down, so that is the last of them. It was not transformed, it was instead added to Gauge. You always have that choice if you're playing a character with transformations. You don't have to transform cards. They chose not to for the reason that Reggie just mentioned, almost certainly, which is, well, that's one fewer copy of Ink Splash if you transform it, and this is a very good card, very relevant to this matchup. I think I agree with that call.
Yeah, no, I sometimes having the extra mobility is useful, but also having an extra 7-speed card against Luciya at range 3 is just really helpful.
Mm-hmm. We have a Strike. Seijun had Light in play earlier from the last turn, so this is probably Spike or Die. That's the standard. It might be Inari Guidance, though.
I wouldn't play Die here.
Oh, this is good for Luciya.
Yeah.
It's unusual to be able to trade with Spike, so she should have dealt a total of 3 damage. I think the opponent misread Downburst, because misreading Luciya cards is a noble tradition.
Look, if they made sense, we wouldn't misread them.
Yeah, that is a before pull, and then she hits, and then she advances, and her character ability does an extra damage. So actually, Luciya got some decent value out of that. She also pulled Seijun toward the corner and took the center, one of the center 3 spaces, which is good.
And got an extra gauge.
Yep. That also did not get a transformation for Seijun. That was just, 5 damage and a gauge, which is nice to have. Probably less important than getting that Inner Guidance online, though.
I'm predicting exceeds from both players pretty soon, honestly. I'm a little surprised Luciya prepped. Like, I know it's only 1 card into gauge from her exceed, but she has a fair bit of gauge anyway.
Mm-hmm.
She'd only... Yeah.
I think we're going to see maybe a grandstanding cross. Oh, no, hold on. We have +2 speed in play from Seijun now. Never mind. You don't grandstanding when your opponent has speed.
Grandstanding fierce cross is, beautiful.
Yeah, but very brave if your opponent has +2 speed in play, so I no longer think that's the play.
No, I wouldn't do that.
We might see a reading, which would actually probably get cancelled by Meddlesome, but getting rid of a focus is usually sensible value.
I would honestly initiate with a focus if I had one here.
That's fair. You only really lose to... Oh! We have +2 speed and strike?
Okay, maybe this is... okay, it's not the grandstanding cross.
It could be the cross, and it looks like he's thinking about the grandstanding. Now, what would be really funny here was if this is a mix-up play, because this could be a hilariously punishing Bug Zapper if Seijun plays something defensive. It's still hard for Luciya to guard crush, but Bug Zapper could do potentially, let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Which...
Yeah, it doesn't guard break anything because she's Seijun, but would refund a solid amount of resources.
Notably, Seijun has both sweeps down now.
Oh.
In pretty rapid succession.
Gotcha,
One's on top of this card.
Oh, you're right, I didn't notice. So only loses to focus then.
Focus? And even then, it's a pretty good deal.
Okay, alright. It wasn't quite cross, but it was kind of like cross. That is not how that... Oh, it doesn't matter, actually.
Nope.
The board is symmetrical.
Yeah.
So you end up doing the same thing. Here you go, yeah. But yeah. Pulls 2, hits for 4.
I like it to be correct.
Does an extra damage. I understand that. Because of that top of discard... Sorry, because of Luciya's ability, that should have done, I believe, a total of 5 damage. I only saw Seijun spend 1 force for +2 armor, so she's probably 1 damage shy where she's supposed to be. Minor play errors like this are not uncommon, especially in Season 2 where characters tend to be pretty complex.
Minor misplays, he means.
Well, there's a difference between a mistake, right? So this was an error.
Minor players.
Oh, excuse me. Then I meant to say minor play errors, and I think I just mumbled or slurred my words. I haven't been awake for very long.
To be fair, I've been awake for a very long time, so this is the best combination.
Perfect. All right, let's see. We are inspecting discards. Helios probably gonna... Well, no, hold on. Reading here is insane. Petersonian has 1 card in hands.
And a 9-card deck.
Yeah.
So a 1 in 10 short. No.
Reading would be really irresponsible. Probably just deciding if they want to exceed, because that goes through the reshuffle, but at least you get the Ink Splash back in deck.
And getting block back in deck is not bad.
This is a
PC3?
change cards?
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
Are left in the... Oh yeah, well that's drawing out deck.
Mm-hmm. Notably, if this is what they're doing, then those should hit the discard pile first, then they start drawing, which will be relevant because they get shuffled into the reshuffle. We'll see if they do that correctly, but it appears that the player made a copy of their hands for reference. This is a common courtesy. Alright, they did execute it correctly. That's nice.
Yeah. That's always good.
Yep.
Alright, so what's that hand? It's not stellar at range 2, so I can understand the...
Everything loses to cross, right?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Inari doesn't really.
No, Inari doesn't because of
Seijun. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Luciya preps in return. Gonna spend some time rebuilding resources. Probably looking to get a bigger hand and then exceed to swap that hand out for that gauge. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and do a brutal Skies of Flame.
There's the Inari.
You see an Inari land.
That is.
Do you spend anything here?
I would spend one of those ultras out of gauge because I want them back in my reshuffle because I know I'm about to pop that reshuffle in a second.
Yeah, and it's worth the same value. 7 cards in deck. Yeah. I definitely want it when I exceed. I definitely spend both of those Ride the Lightnings. Like this.
Want them
question.
back in deck. I would spend one here. They might be looking to do a pure reload instead of. Okay, there we go.
Yep, spent a Mantis Strike.
Yep.
Which means that transform is down at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
With both copies are in discard.
Yep. So all ultras are down on Lucia's side. Seijun, now that she's reshuffled, all her mix-up threats are live again. And that is pretty scary. She has an 8-card hand, which means Ink Spike is 7 damage, Ink Splash is 7 speed.
Yep.
Alright, looked like Luciya prepped again, I believe. Yep.
Yes. If I'm Luciya here, I kind of don't want to exceed immediately. Reason being, if there's any normals in those 5 cards, there's a known reading.
Yeah, and I could just immediately get dunked. That is pretty awkward.
Which really sucks, yeah. Especially after the reshuffle.
Yeah, I feel like my play here as Seijun is to just trust that I currently can still bully Luciya a bit, and maybe play a Fierce, or possibly... Well, it really depends what else is in that hand. We now have very little information about Seijun's hands. We know she has these 5, but we don't know what the other 4 cards are. Or sorry, 3 cards are.
Game is very close.
Yes.
Life totals and game plan, which is rare to see with 7th cross characters in play.
This is true. Yeah, this is interesting. Like, typically, if Luciya was even on life at this point against your average character, she would be considered way ahead. She has grandstanding, she has a bunch of gauge, she's about to exceed and then be able to start paying out. She is behind on transformations right here, though, which makes it look a little bit worse for her.
I think both Skies of Flame are in discard.
They are. Yeah, she boosted preemptive twice.
You don't want to exceed without having access to them. Oh.
That makes sense, yeah, because preemptive is one of the best ways to get value out of your exceed ability. Ooh, EX. Probably EX Assault?
I'm pulling EX Ink Splash. Not Ink Splash, Ink Spike.
That's reasonable. That's pretty hard to deal with. Maybe impossible, actually.
It does take that mix-up threat out, but it means all your other EXs are
that much better, yeah. Yeah, I personally feel like an EX Assault into maybe a Exceed action is the way to go. But, you know, as we said, this could be anything. We do know that Seijun did not spend for range, so it's probably not Grasp. Let's put it that way.
If I'm...
Oh, well, this is fine for both players.
I favor Seijun in this. I think she's got the better end of the deal.
That's true. I don't think that there was really a better option for Luciya, though. I think that was probably unbeatable. Maybe block was up, but... No, block was not up, because turn 1 parry happens, so... That is our second block.
Yeah.
Alright, well, good for Seijun. Normally, this would be very, very pressuring. However, you are up against Luciya. If she wants out of the corner, she can just pay resources, get out of the corner. Is this the exceed?
1, 2, 3.
Alright.
Okay.
Alright, she is losing both Ride the Lightnings. This is dangerous. We will see if it was worth it. If you're wondering what's happening now and why this is all looking like this, it's because she has, when you exceed, add your hand to your gauge and draw 5 cards. She will then draw for end of turn.
So she needs to draw 2 more here.
Yep, 1 for the action, 1 for the end of turn. Like she has in common with Sea Viper from Season 3, Street Fighter, that her exceed turn is actually an extremely important turn. Most characters, they have to take a turn off in order to exceed, which is it is a resource hit. It is also a tempo hit. It means that you're slowing things down on your side, letting the opponent figure out what they want to do, and that's an important consideration. Luciya and Sea Viper, however, are designed to exceed in order to up their own tempo, to be able to reload, restock, get ready, and start paying out.
Hey.
Yeah, Pradicus noting in chat that he hated doing that because there is a known focus available, and we're about to see a reading punish. But
what are we seeing? The dive? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh.
That is a free 4 damage. No, 6 damage, excuse me. That is a +2 power from Nighttail. That is harsh.
Yep, and advantage.
And advantage.
And the +2 power from Ninetale is still in play, so if
this could be
here,
really, really... this could be decisive if Helios has options to continue to capitalize.
Now, in saying that, her specials, Seijun's specials are not very good right now because of the lack of hand.
That's true.
I'm calling Grasp.
I think Grasp as well. Yeah, both Ride the Lightnings are down.
Grasp in hand. Yeah, and there's a known Grasp in hand.
Yep. If you play Focus, you get destroyed by Sweep. Is the issue? Like your Focus and Sweep both get guard crushed. Oh, spinning for range.
Range.
Sweep then. Gotta be Sweep because the only reason you throw range on this is to make your Sweep cover Talon Sweep.
But he's reshuffled, so he
could
theoretically have Tet.
Yeah, and I think Seijun's worst case is Luciya getting out of the corner and evading. And we know both dives are down as well, which means Sweep might actually be unbeatable, barring Bug Zapper? Wait,
the blocks?
2... no, even EX Bug Zapper? Yeah, just block, I think. Whew.
Oh, and notably, Ninth Tail is a hit effect, so even if you spend cards from hand for armor on block, they still have the extra +2 power.
Yep.
As opposed to it being a passive.
Alright, calling that Grasp. Nope, it was the Sweep. That is going to guard crush. It will not kill. This may have still been worth.
Yeah.
This may have still been worth playing.
What?
8 minus 2. Oh, I can't do math.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
No, that does kill. Oof. Yep. Solid play. Yeah. So here we saw what happens often in high-level play, honestly, and this is a good example of a high-level play matchup, which is one player made themselves reading at the wrong time. The other player had everything ready for that opportunistic punish. Did a unreactable damage combo that was really, really rough.
I'm not sure why Petersonian just deleted Luciya, because he can still play Luciya.
He may have already decided that he wants to swap off, or he may just plan on spawning an extra copy instead of cleaning up. Nice thing about Tabletop Sim is we can just make new copies of things instead of trying to, reorganize our cards and all that.
Yeah. So Seijun is now out. So Helios has King Knight and Rachel.
Yes.
And on Petersonian's side, he has Luciya again, Vega, and Nu. Oh.
This was solid Luciya play.
Yeah, I would probably run that Luciya again.
Yeah, I think I would be happy to play Luciya again. Probably gonna win because if we assume both players led their strongest characters, if Helios is as most people probably will, unless you have really specific matchup considerations to worry about. If you assume that I should put it this way: if you assume that both King Knight and Rachel are weaker for Helios than Seijun was, I think that Luciya should absolutely ride again.
Yeah, because that was
solid
don't
play.
let the life total deceive you. That game was closer than 16 life ahead.
That game was extremely close. If not for those normals at the very end there, which actually probably means a reshuffle action was the way to go, now I think about it. People hate taking that action often, especially outside of Season 5. But
especially if it loses you 2 Ride the Lightnings. But he lost those anyway, so...
Yep. Yeah, I think my standard play there is a big CC to draw so many cards that I can end up the normals afterward. There's a few ways to answer it, but they're all kind of awkward.
Alright, so who do we think? I think we see Luciya again. I think that's a good decision. And Rachel?
I think Luciya Rachel. I think if Helios calls the Luciya, Helios plays Rachel, because King Knight is not noted for his mobility. Let's put it that way. I am, however, notably bad at King Knight. I'm infamously bad at King Knight, actually. So I could very well be underestimating how well King Knight can deal with a character like Luciya.
I'm not an excellent King Knight, but I don't think he needs to be able to outstat the character by a ton. But the stat he needs is range in this case, and he doesn't have a ton of that.
That is pretty much the stat he doesn't have, yeah. He has power and speed and armor and guard, but not range. I also think King Knight is not a very good matchup into Vega, although that's for the same reason, is that King Knight isn't very good at range, doesn't have good mobility, at least in my opinion. Disclaimer, once again, not a good King Knight.
So we got Rachel, Luciya.
Exactly.
Hey, we were right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all. This should be an interesting matchup.
I think just ignoring the players playing, I think I favor Rachel in this matchup. Her ability to move, close or retreat, which does matter, can really just mess with Luciya.
Yep, yeah. Luciya is often considered an answer character, meaning she has the ability to diffuse any threat if she is ready for it. And Rachel's ability lets her just very abruptly change the game state and go, I'm sorry, you were ready at range 1, well, I'll be at range 3 now. I'm striking with something else. Or you thought I was at range 3, well, now I'm at range 2. Your least favorite range, so... This is very, very potent. It is resource expensive, and we saw a pretty resource-efficient Luciya that game. So, if this turns into a game of footsies based on resource management, Luciya may have an edge.
Yeah. A shame to see both Skies of Flame go down. I mean, preemptive is preemptive. It's incredible. +2 speed now. Strike is nothing to sneeze at. But in my experience against Luciya, that's her payout. You exceed, you throw Skies of Flame, you don't get hit, and you hit the opponent for at least 7, probably 8.
Yep. Yeah, I'm mousing over Rachel's cards so folks can pause the video and take a look at them if they're inclined. At least the specials for now, look at the ultras later. And then I'm going to take a quick look at preemptive. So this is a 1 force ultra boost, but you can pay force cost from gauge, and because of how Luciya's Exceed ability works, this means that this can be a +2 speed, +1 power, now strike. And then, because of grandstanding, you can pay a force for that from gauge, and have another +1 power, and then because of grandstanding's effect, another +1 power. So you can, all at once, have +3 power, +2 speed, and be striking, which is kind of insane. It does cost 2 gauge, and a preemptive, which is non-trivial, but, whew, man, that damage.
Yeah, and particularly towards the end game, you can, set up deterministic kills, spike at range 3 when they have nothing that can avoid it.
Yep. Heck, even just in assaults, you can if they're out of blocks, you can throw a 7 power assault, an 8 power EX assaults, an unavoidable dive that does 8 or 9 if it's EX, like that. Luciya has really good closing options. This is true in general of fast characters, by the way. Any character who has reliable access to speed tends to be good at closing the game.
Yeah, it's just they also tend to be alright in the early game. The mid game, I think they tend to have the most trouble with.
Yeah, once some of their options are down and they can't hold the threat of them over the opponents, things get pretty awkward for them. They also don't necessarily have the ability to stun guardy characters like Seijun. I think we saw a Mole 5 from Luciya. I think Helios either already mold when I wasn't looking, or hasn't mold yet. Or maybe just Mole 0, I don't know.
I love a good Mole 0.
Okay,
nope.
That's...
Mulligan 2.
3, 4... Okay, 4.
Okay.
Alright. It's kind of an interesting matchup shape. Luciya lost the previous game... Petersonian lost the previous game, so had the choice of going first. Going first is pretty much standard for vast majority of characters. It is only considered like standard practice to go second if you are a Season 2 transformation character, so 7th cross, like Luciya, who is digging for very specific cards or a very specific opening hand shape. And for most
you don't
characters,
expect your opponent to parry.
Yes, and you don't expect your opponent to be able to parry, whatever it is that you're worried about.
All of the threats.
Yeah, so it happens on Galdred and Taisei most notably. It can happen on any 7th cross characters, but most people, if this is their mindset, on most characters are just going to take turn 1 anyway and then prepare, and trust that that will give them access to what they want. Galdred works a little bit differently, so I think he is the one for whom it is the likeliest to happen. Alright, we have a boost, we have a prepare from Luciya, and we have a boost, which is an interesting boost. This boost goes on the board. Yep. Mousing over for that.
Yep. And that's not likely to pay out against Luciya, but it does serve to threaten Firefly Gunner, which is a threat I don't think we saw because its boosts are really good.
Yes.
But I think it's a lot more live against Rachel than it is against
Agreed.
Kokonoe.
Yeah, Rachel has two.
Kokonoe. My brain.
Luciya, right? Or no, Seijun.
No. Yeah, that one.
Different demi-human. Okay, we are initiating a strike here. Oh, this is a reading.
We had a reading. That's why the focus is there.
Uh-oh.
EX dive is rough, and assault. I think I just play the EX dive.
Huh. Reading assault. That's kind of interesting. This could be even the other focus. Like the telegraph, when you say reading assault, is that you're playing, something that hits at close range because you're not going to outspeed the opponent.
Could be Bug Zapper.
Could be Bug Zapper. That would be really punishing, actually. So that would not surprise me at all.
But yeah, I think I just play the EX dive here. Even if it is the sweep or the focus, it's still trading pretty well.
Yep. Looks like they're looking through Lucia's specials. They may have mistakenly read Talon Sweep again, because they put it up here, which suggests that they think it's a threat. It is not a threat. They're playing Flying Lobelia. Well, that still deals with everything except for Firefly Gunner, and Firefly Gunner doesn't beat Assault, so this is probably safe. It wasn't safe. This wasn't safe. Holy crap.
Okay, so deals 1 damage.
Yep. Rachel needs to validate her 4 special. But yeah, deals 1 damage. So interestingly, this would have outsped the Assault and then stunned it, because that 1 damage to the character ability counts towards stun. It would not have hit the Assault.
It
also didn't hit the Downburst. We also didn't validate our 4 special. We got a couple issues here.
Yeah, no, they did.
Okay, they did just now. Yeah, they dropped that
3
spike.
cards in. Yeah.
Yeah.
They also chose not to use the ability on it.
The cleanup effects. Yeah, that is a little surprising. Yeah, typically there's no reason not to, right? Like right now it's just in discard pile. This cleanup effect. So notably, this may also be a misunderstanding. Cleanup happens even if you're stunned. Cleanup is kind of into strike nonsense. So this is at the end of the strike. Roughly, you may place the top card of your discard pile face down in any space within the stack's range's lightning round marker. That would be the spike, by the way, that they spent to validate their attack. Because on reveal, you pay the cost. Then, during cleanup, you'll put that onto the board as a lightning round marker. If you're wondering what the heck is lightning round marker, it is defined on Rachel's character card. So I will look at that real quick.
So Rachel just spent 1 force to retreat using her ability. So she, once per turn as an action, spend up to 2 force to close her retreat, then take another action. She has done so, and then she prepared as her other action.
Makes sense. Hanging out at range 2, keeping in mind Lucia's least favored ranges, that checks out.
Yeah, and she does have a tool if Luciya decides to cross here. She has Tiny Lobelia. Now, I don't know if she has it, but she can use it.
Yes. Yeah, Tiny Lobelia has guard on it, which means that if you think your opponent's going to back off into its range, you can guard through across and hit them back. Get some value.
Yeah. In this case, 2 gauge, or 1 gauge and a lightning rod. But scenario is pretty good. I think against Luciya you want as many lightning rods as possible. Honestly.
I think so too. Yeah, just the ability to threaten various spaces, especially because it can really, it can really mess with the character who doesn't have printed defenses, and Luciya notably does not. She has no printed guard, no printed armor. Her only thing that even approaches the defense is this attacks or range 3 and 4 don't hit you Firefly Gunner. Effect on Firefly Gunner, which doesn't do any good against the Lightning Rod effect. The Lightning Rod effect doesn't say hit, it says after.
It doesn't hit. Yeah.
It just says, if this is an opponent's space, you can just deal some damage, which just as Downburst did, right? It did damage without hitting. It shouldn't be engaged. Please disregard that. That's player error. Player error, excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But like, it did 1 damage because of the cross-up. Because of the crossover. Not because it hit. Alright, what do we got? Initiative.
Yep. So boosting that tiny Lobelia. Oh, because she has the cross in hand and the whirlwind in hand. So now she doesn't have to worry about Luciya crossing.
That makes sense. Yeah, you've got speed 7 defensive options that are both pretty stable, and also you're kind of indicating that you might be initiating the whirlwind next turn. Puts a little bit of threat on Luciya.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice defense too with whirlwind, you know.
Yep.
Sustaining. So you choose to draw one, I assume, if you defend, and then sustain it.
Yep.
It's a nice little combo.
Yep. Yeah, so notably because if you get advantage, you can just take the next turn to prep. So if you are defending with this card, advantage doesn't do you any good. So you may as well just draw. But if you get to initiate with it, then you get advantage, and you have the choice of whatever you want on your next turn, which is pretty good. I like this
if I'm
card shape, but
Rachel,
it's a good boost. Sorry, go on.
I think if I'm Rachel, I spend 1 force to retreat and then just play dive. On curve dive that gains advantage.
I don't know that I like that, because I think I'm kind of anticipating a Ride the Lightning or a Downburst on defense. Because at range 3 with speed, dive is the telegraph, so it feels unsafe.
I forgot to account for the fact that there's 1 more gauge than there should be.
Right, which is actually currently pretty relevant. So
yeah,
that error has become salient, which is interesting.
Yeah, otherwise it does work into Luciya's hand, particularly because 1 downburst is down.
That's true.
Hand her cards.
Into her overall deck. Yeah, you only lose the other downburst, and that, or arguably cross, but you don't really lose to cross. You just don't win against cross. From range 3, that's what we're talking, by the way. This is interesting.
Yeah.
It's Luciya's turn, right? So
I think so.
Probably has to diffuse that with a boost of her own. Might preemptive to gain a 1 speed edge over that. Might decide to move to range 1, which the common joke about that
doesn't matter.
Yeah, the common joke is that speed doesn't matter at range 1. It does matter, but it matters less than other ranges, because at range 1 you can't play Spike. Spike is the ignore guard, ignore armor normal that just destroys anything if you're faster. So at range 1 it doesn't work, meaning, okay, you can probably play a block or a focus or a sweep at range 1 and be okay. Oh, what?
And most people... What?
That was a change card too.
CC2... Scared of the reading. Which
I guess so, but like...
With a light in play.
So the weird thing about this to me is...
Focus engage, though.
Well, here's what's weirder, right? One of those was a dive. And there's a light in play. So...
Oh, yeah.
If you're trying to reset to neutral, or if you believe you have an advantage, you should just tech the light, and then you're back up to having a speed 7 card at range 2 that is known that you don't care that the opponent knows. So this is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't consider it. I'm not really sure whether Helios did either. I'm sure he has some reason. Oh, and this hurts.
That's annoying. Yeah. It is probably lower, like relatively low value as techs go. It's only a +1 speed boost. It has some other nice stuff on it, but like, this is not teching Light. This is not teching George. I think Helios should be okay. Rachel should be okay with this. I'm gonna mouse over George, by the way.
I thought it. I considered it so impactful. Sweeps in play. At range 2, I keep bringing this card up because A, I love it, and B, it's one of her most punishing, but Bug Zapper.
That's true.
On-curve Bug Zapper exists.
On-curve Bug Zapper is a terrifying thought. And if there's an EX Bug Zapper, it does so much damage. Alright, Rachel is initiating.
So much gauge.
Yep, Rachel initiating makes sense here. She just lost that +1 speed, and she doesn't want to fall too far behind. So initiating means that there is mix-up for Luciya to deal with. However...
I think it's focus.
it could well be Whirlwinds, just to force respects. So Whirlwind at speed 6 means you can't play Bug Zapper on defense. And that is a bit scary.
But if you have EX Bug Zapper, you windmill slam it, I think, no matter what.
I agree with that, 100%.
Spike, that's a...
Oh!
What? Oh, he and I were of the same mind.
Yeah.
We thought it was a slow thing.
Yep, it was. That went even better than Bug Zapper, because Bug Zapper does not ignore armor. No, so that was just a hard punish.
Well, questionably, Bug Zapper would have got a lot of gauge.
That's true, but this is the clear and clean win, where Rachel gets absolutely nothing. In the other case, she at least would have gotten 1 gauge of her own. And notably, because Rachel initiated, it's now Luciya's turn, so she's following up. We'll see what happens. I'm feeling cross, but I always feel cross.
Yeah, I mean, you should always feel cross at range 2. Cross is...
Ooh, 1 ultra drop.
That's a Tempest Dahlia down. Oh, and a spike drop.
Yeah, the spike drop does hit, but it only hits for 3 because she doesn't have any continuous boost. So that is not ideal for her. Rachel losing the resource war.
And she lose a card in hand.
Oh my goodness, that's another ultra.
Yep, and even spike drop itself is a really good card.
That is true.
Particularly end game.
Yeah.
Or even mid game. It's...
Yep, if you can drop a +2 speed or a +1 speed onto this, it is exceptional at guaranteeing damage. Something I like to talk about is how speed helps you convert power into damage, because power is great, but if you don't hit, it doesn't help, right? So, like, Spike Drop is a card that says, oh, you have speed, let me give you more damage. Oh, you're reading.
It also combos quite well with any of her boosts that hit a spot. Oh yeah, reading the grass, sorry, to play the cross.
Yep, that's another free turn.
That's 5 gauge.
Rachel's second cross drops.
That's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of these characters really value cross.
What? Change cards?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would normally be considered a mistake.
HeliosAflame?
This would normally be considered a mistake. The biggest question here is, are we looking for... Well, wait. I'm thinking why this is...
Ride the lightning.
Probably, but my other thought is looking for transformations. However, one of those was a Mantis Strike, so typically you would have just CC'd 4 and held that Mantis looking for that EX transform.
Yeah.
We might also just be about to see a reshuffle, like a total refresh, reset, reload, but at that point I think Luciya would actually be too low on... Like, I think exceeding right now would be a mistake. She just doesn't... Like, she pays 5 gauge, she gets 6 gauge. It's not efficient.
Yeah.
She wants to be gaining a lot more when she does it. Oh. Both players are aggressively CCing for things. That was a CC4 with ultras. Helios needs to discard down a hand size. There you go.
Helios also is out of ultras.
Yep, no ultras anymore on that side. They are... Ooh, wow. Helios is already deep in deck from the look of it, actually. Probably
7
because of that.
With 7 in hand.
Yep.
Luciya has 6 in hand and 13 in deck, so now neither of them are reshuffled yet, so that does signal something. That doesn't mean too much, but
yeah, it does mean somewhat mimetically, right, that Luciya has the deck out pressure, and that she is not as close to decking out as Rachel is. This is a filthy lie because she's Luciya. She will almost certainly exceed this game, and when she exceeds, she will immediately, basically take a turn to draw 5 cards. So she's actually... Cards. Well, I'm not counting the end of turn because the end of turn happens at any turn.
Nope. You could strike. Just strike every time.
Touche. Okay, valid. In that case, yeah, if you look at it that way, their decks are literally even, because at some point Luciya will probably exceed. This is interesting. I think that both players are kind of contemplating the threat and the value of reading. I believe Rachel still has both focuses up. I could be mistaken, but I think so.
I'm not too sure on that. Reading at range 2 is a lot less meaningful if you don't have cross.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she is out of crosses, so there's no safe play, as it were.
Yeah, there's also no mix-up if you miss your reading.
Yep. Alright, Luciya dealing free damage, getting out of the corner. Makes sense.
Gaining a gauge.
Yep.
What?
That is the correct one. That's
that's correct, yeah.
Yep.
Because the cross doesn't drop until after you do it.
Yep, yeah, so she boosts cross, it goes to her boost area, she resolves boost effects, she moves past the opponents, and then thanks to her ability does non-lethal damage and adds the top card of her discard pile, which was Mantis Strike, to her gauge. By the way, another subtle note here, if she had paid when she paid 5 force of CC, she could have left the Ultra on top, and then she would have had an Ultra engage right now, instead of Mantis Strike. That's usually considered optimal because of the force reasons. She might want to keep those Ultras out of gauge in order to prevent her late game from being awkward, though. That was something that she ran into last game, so she might specifically be trying not to have Ultras engage at the moment.
But she can spend them from gauge later.
She can.
To get them back into the discard.
She can, but if you're concerned that you will, if you're concerned that you yourself will not be like wanting to spend them later, because here's the thing, right? If you have an Ultra engage, a lot of people won't be willing to pay it as 1. They want to go, all right, I want to find something that's worth 2 force to pay with this Ultra. And if you're of that mindset, then keeping them out of your gauge in the first place might be the better call. You have to be willing to sacrifice some value sometimes to be optimal, even though it feels inefficient. Alright, we have initiating, we are... Oh my gosh.
Again! I only just realized how far apart the life totals were, and then
that happened.
Hitting two spikes with no response will do that.
Oh man.
This is looking... The only hit Helios has landed is that spike drop.
Yep. Yeah, Helios was looking for... now granted, Spike is not at all safe at range 2. Yeah. Sorry, I meant to say Sweep. Spike is also not safe, but Sweep is incredibly unsafe. Because it mostly loses to Bug Zapper. It loses to Dive, even though Dive doesn't hit. It still loses to it. Loses to Spike. They're rough loss cases there. They were trying to get some value in, and it ended up losing horribly for them. So they probably would have been better off boosting Light. Luciya is... So due to Luciya's lack of defenses, her offensive defenses, she is what we call a speed-sensitive character. Meaning if you can outspeed her, you can generally just beat her all the time. So that Light probably would have come in handy. Opponent cannot move. This turns off Rachel's character ability for a turn. That is rough.
Yeah, I'm not sure what sort of strike what you strike with there. You know, normally you do that at range 3 to make Firefly Gunner monstrous, unless he intends to move out to range 3.
Yeah, true. This is not the standard play as far as this boost is concerned, because there's no cross, and Firefly Gunner's not a threat. So I'm not sure what he's looking to back this up with.
I feel like this is Whirlwind.
I think this is just focus, because both spikes are down. Like...
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
You need to start trading in your favor pretty aggressively. Focus also is really funny if Luciya is planning on playing a downburst.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on this hesitation, it looks like... Oh, okay, well, this is... He's also calling the Whirlwind, looks like. Okay. Ride the Lightning, this is acceptable for both players. Definitely better for Rachel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely thought it would be Whirlwind, just because it's on curve, just to get rid of the threat. I probably would have paid that in the other order, so for the reason we discussed about having Ultras in discard, just have Mantis Strike in discard instead of the Spike.
Yeah, that's fair. Keeping Spikes live for reshuffle is important. He's probably not quite at the point where he's thinking too hard about reshuffle, but with Luciya, it's never too early, because any 5-gauge flip. Yep, here we go. That's a 5-gauge flip. This is uncommon. It's usually considered inefficient. However, if what you need is to aggressively move toward the end of the game, this might be the thing to do.
That's... Oh, and...
Okay, Luciya absolutely needs to reshuffle like next turn, because we got 4 Ultras in discard. That is... This is actually probably Rachel's... This is the best time for Rachel to take advantage of the game state, because she is... Luciya's about to go nuts, but right now, she's in a very awkward position. So what do you think the play is for Rachel?
I I genuinely don't know. So, since all the ultras are down, maybe retreat and throw a flying Lobelia. It's free damage. You can get a lightning rod down.
So I was thinking that. I'm pretty sure we have seen no Firefly Gunners drop.
Okay, and you can't retreat to 5. Yeah.
Yep. So life is actually kind of awkward right now for everybody, but I'm not sure Rachel has the punish she needs.
And if you have a dive, I know at least one dive is down, so you can't even do that. What?
Oh,
that's
interesting. All right, so here, let me explain. So what happened was, this is a Magic TTS thing. Petersonian made a copy of his deck, made a copy of his hand, face down, shuffled them together, and is presenting it to his opponent so that they can review all of his available options. I've seen him do this before.
I've never seen this one. I quite like this.
Yeah, so we have EX Assault, EX Talon Sweep, EX Firefly Gunner. What an interesting deck to have left. Like, man, that EX Assault is a pain, that Firefly Gunner is a pain. Talon Sweep also means you can't just go to range 1 and be safe. This is really obnoxious for Rachel. Oh, man. Yeah. With only 4 cards in deck, chances are very good that one of those EXs is live. Although you basically don't throw EX Firefly Gunner because you don't need to.
Yeah.
Speed doesn't really help it much. Interesting.
The only reason... Yeah, I'm trying to think why you would... If there's any reason to throw EX Firefly... Have a Guardy move that closes in?
Yeah, I guess you could throw it on offense against... Yeah, well, no, his guard is Blood Scythe. Blood Scythe. Yeah. Okay. No, you're right because you need 7 stun. All right. So at range 3, you do it to cover Blood Scythe, I guess, or maybe to cover a.
Well, there's another reason you do it is to disguise that you're doing it.
That's true. Yeah. No one expects it. We have a CC3, getting rid of 0, 2, and 3. I probably would have boosted Light. Well, no, never mind. Into this deck. Light is asking for trouble because it either gets teched or Whirlwind comes up, and that then your Light looks kind of bad.
Yeah. And I still think the reshuffle is good because you keep all these threats live, and you get your ultras back.
Yeah, I think either EX Assaults, which is like face up, but also I don't care, or reshuffle. I would not play greedy here. Like, you have a 15 life advantage and you need to maintain it.
Yeah. EX Assault into the reshuffle's nice. Like, that will mostly trade well with everything.
I'm pretty sure we have seen Zero Focuses drop on Rachel's side, so like most of the time EX Assault into EX Talon Sweep is good. Right now it's actually that is still really good. Never mind.
Yeah.
EX Assault into Grasp or into regular Talon Sweep, also fine. Grasp does not beat Focus, notably. So, like, if Rachel plays 2 Focuses, you're suddenly actually just trading down a bunch. Just annoying.
Okay, but you're many life ahead.
Yeah. If I had those 2 EXs in hand, I would throw that. Otherwise, I would. If I didn't have EX Assault, I reshuffle now right away. I'm like, that's the situation in which I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Or even if you do have the EX Assault in hand, reshuffle and then play it next turn.
True.
Like,
true.
You don't lose anything from it. So what have we got?
Initiative.
So there's the other tiny Lobelia. That's the second tiny Lobelia.
Yes, that's pretty important. That this card...
Yep.
Well, okay, to be fair, the reason this card is important in this matchup is because it lets you guard through Luciya's stuff and hit back when she jumps from melee to range, which she would do with Ride the Lightning and Talon Sweep. And right now, you're still almost dead. We saw Parry Whirlwinds.
Yep. That was the known Whirlwind from...
ages ago, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, is this the other Whirlwinds? Or maybe a Spike Drop?
I like Spike Drop better, but it's still not phenomenal. If you have a Focus, you play Focus no matter what you think it is.
Yeah, I think if Luciya top decks that Ride the Lightning, you play that, but chances are that she only got 2 draws.
4, 5, 6, 7. So. There's 7 possible options. So this is probably something you could work
Oh
out.
no, it is the Ride the Lightning. Oh, yep, there it is. Only 2 draws out of that deck, and you got to Ride the Lightning. Well,
and that's
didn't play to cover it. That is a 3 power. Yeah. So they're skipping a little bit of resolution here, but because Luciya's Thunderbird, the 2 gauge that you pay become boosts for the duration of the strike, and each of them gives +1 power. So, like, this was a 3 power Ride the Lightning, and then at the end of the strike, because they're boosts, they get discarded. Like, they just skipped straight to the discard because they both knew what was happening, so that was a...
Yeah. If you have Skies of Flame here, you just play Skies of Flame. I think...
yeah, both crosses are down. Skies of Flame is extraordinarily free. I think I might even just play a raw Firefly Gunner or a raw Bug Zapper. Like, those are both perfectly sensible options.
Particularly because you still have a dive left, so the opponent can't just play dive if they think it's Firefly Gunner.
Yep. We have
It's a nasty scenario.
I will say one thing is worth noting. Helios has access to whatever options he... Ah, there it is.
Oh, and he's got a... That's game.
Yeah, that's game. Firefly Gunner dodges the projectile, hits back for lethal. Alright, so Helios is noting he had the Assault, which would have dodged the Firefly Gunner, but they just had to call the mix-up, and they called it wrong.
Oh.
They called Bug Zapper, probably.
Yeah. I mean, same answer for Bug Zapper or for Dive. So, last game I said the life totals do not indicate how close it was. This game...
this game they do.
They do.
This game they actually do, yeah. One thing I wanted to note at the last moment, though, was that Helios did have access to all of their options at that time because there was 1 card in deck. So you either play a card from hand or you Wild Swing the card that is your Wild Swing, and you know what all of them are. So that was just a matter of calling the mix-up correctly.
Losing those Ultras early, I think, really swung it in Petersonian's favor.
Yeah, Petersonian also ditched Ultras early, but did it for value, right? Like, that CC4 with Skies of Flame we both thought was crazy, but then Luciya never needed Skies of Flame.
Yeah, and Luciya won, so it doesn't really matter.
You
can make plays that are crazy, but if you win it, it's fine.
Sometimes it works. Alright, we have Rachel and Sanu. So Helios, again, running Rachel.
Wins.
Right, you hate Nu. Looking at these, alright, so it was Nu or Vega, and it was King Knight or Rachel. Nu makes sense. If I recall, Petersonian's more comfortable with Nu than Vega. Has a decent amount of experience with her at this point, casually, but, like, it's a Season 5 character. You don't have competitive experience at this point. This is the first tournament that has Season 5. And then Helios, King Knight or Rachel.
I think Rachel has better matchup into both of them. Vega.
Same reason as I said earlier. Is like Rachel can move around. Vega, you need to be able to move around.
And Nu, it's kind of nice to be able to get out of, her zone and do something else. Same reason I think Rachel's quite good into Mole Knight.
Makes sense.
If you can do something and stand on the burrow, it's good. If you can move out of Nu's zone and do something, it's good.
Yep. Yeah. Nu's zone, by the way, is mostly range 4+. Because...
Notably, Nu isn't turn 1 here, which is important.
It is important. I think it's less important than in mini matchups because Rachel has a Guardian Projectile. The fact that Nu... So Nu, let me establish for folks who are not familiar with Nu. When you set your attack, you may spend a force gain plus 3 to 4 range. For example, and the most common example people talk about with Nu's openers is turn 1 Grasp. Right? So it's Grasp at speed 7 at range 4 to 5. The opponent can't do anything about it. And you move them 1 or 2 spaces if they didn't play a focus, right? It costs you a force, so you tend to be pretty low on resources after that. But it's also typically unbeatable. Now let me hover over Tiny
and the
Lobelia.
Opponent has to spend resources to come in. So.
Yep. Afterwards. Yep. Tiny Lobelia is a projectile with 4 guard, which hits at 3 to 6, meaning if you try to push with Grasp, you get hit back. This is awkward. Alright.
Okay, so we've just seen a spend Ultra to move in, and then boost Initiative, and then Initiative was teched.
Yep. Oh, excuse me, did not mean to do that.
And
yes.
then a Prepare on Rachel's side.
Okay, this makes sense. Rachel's pretty comfortable at range 2. Nu always wants to be farther away from you. That's just the world of new, is let's not be at close range ever.
Her range 1 game is better than her range 2 game, I think.
I disagree because Sword Dance exists. Sword Dance is a speed 4 attack that does up to 7 damage. And that's pretty terrifying. Now, notably, Rachel has a card with 7 guard at range 2. It specifically handles attacks that do a little bit more damage than almost anything else. Oh, that's bad for Rachel. Both players are resetting their life.
Yeah, so that's bad for Rachel. On top of losing that strike, if she'd won, she'd still played cross. It is on defense, so she can move back in, but she would have still been at an awkward position.
Yeah, she would have gone range 5, and then probably had to spend resources to move back in. Okay, this makes sense.
One force. Now, what's the other action? Prepare.
Probably
Petersonian's.
Oh, Petersonian's jumping the gun. Hang tight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that feels like an assault to me.
Probably. All right. Oh. Boosting Lotus Barrel.
Oh.
That's good.
That's very important, because if that was the assault I think it is, which he wouldn't have known when he was doing his thing, but if that's the assault I think it is, playing Grasp here is nasty. Recurring to force and just stunning or dealing 2 damage. It's very nice.
Yeah, Lotus Barrel is pretty interesting boost for just consistent value. So Rachel's definitely trying to play the resource game here into new, which makes a lot of sense. You can't zone new unless you're Sagat, and even then. So
you can if you're Tega. You just make your zone range 1.
Fair, true. You can't keep new at distance safely. Let's put it that way. You can't run keep away against new. It's like the worst idea. New boost defend. Okay, well this means that she doesn't have to worry about the lightning rod stunning out something just by cheating speed. That's unique that Reggie was referring to, by the way, was to play a fast thing that then does damage as an after effects.
Ooh.
Oh, that is very punishing.
Yeah.
Alright, so that EX Assault outspeeds comes in, deals 4 after armor, and might retrieve that card to deal an extra 2. That is up to Helios.
Yes.
Yep, 2 more.
I think that's correct.
I would agree with that. Yep. I love EX Assault so much. EX Assault is my favorite normal.
Yeah. I like EX Sweep.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That was, I believe, well, it doesn't matter who initiated. EX Assault hit, so it is Rachel's turn.
It was New's turn.
Makes sense. Yeah, defending
reactive EX Sweep.
Assault. But yeah, reactive EXs tend to be the best because that extra speed can catch people by surprise. Change cards too, that's fair. I'm not sure this boost or this attack are going to come in real handy this matchup.
So the force might for movement later, but you've drawn exactly at least that many force with the action, so.
Yeah. Like, cards are only useful if they're useful. Saving something until it's useful later is pretty questionable. Alright, we have a boosting counter assault. If he runs at range 1, push 3, draw 2. Paying with it with Sword Dance and Sword Summoner, which are both kind of bad at range 1, so this makes sense. Well, one of them is terrible and one of them is kind of bad.
They're good at range 4 though. Draw for end of turn. Let's see if they remember.
Sword Dance is not at range 4.
Sword Dance. Oh no, it doesn't hit. So.
Nope. Yeah. It looks like
Sword Summoner notably is.
Yes. Oh yeah. Sword Summoner is particularly good. Looks like New may have just deprived herself of an end-turn draw. I wasn't watching, but numerically, I think
she definitely she hasn't.
Yep.
I am watching, and she hasn't.
Yep.
So
that
we have a move in, and then +2.
Depriving yourself of a card like that, it's probably a bigger deal than Luciya getting an extra gauge. Oh, definitely a bigger deal actually. New is her economy is not good, but she needs economy. Rachel currently threatening Whirlwind probably to do 5 damage at speed 6 and then sustain the Fierce.
I mean, the other option is the one I quite like there, that you brought up making it fast to confirm damage, but I like damage on damage spike drop.
Oh, yeah. Speed 5. It's under curve, but it does 7 damage, which is pretty insane. 7 damage ignoring armor stuns everything.
At least one cross is down.
True, and New does not have another above curve card without gauge. No meterless reversal.
Yeah. And 5 speed's not even that far below curve. So.
Yep, that's true. People don't like playing cross in this position, so it's well, 1 copy's down. Oh, we have a reading. Looking to defuse this threat. Successful.
Oh. And there's that EX assault.
My favorite normal.
He had an assault earlier.
Yeah.
Discard order.
Yeah, well, we don't. To be fair, that hand changed out completely. We have no idea if that assault was around earlier, because he played Broken Weapon, which shuffles his hand into his deck and then reloads.
Well, we didn't see it earlier. I just felt it.
That's fair. Luminous Slave. This is kind of cool. So this is a boost which decreases min range, meaning you can play a range 1 spike, for example. It also does some pretty janky things. So, for example, Nu could play Dive, use her character ability, and then hit by advancing to range 3 and hitting with a range, what is that, 2 to 5? 2 to 5? Yeah, range 2 to 5 dive?
2 to 5, yeah.
Yep. What a weird shape.
I like Sword Dance here as well.
Ooh, yeah.
Sword Dance is basically just another spike in this situation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Sword Dance here. Oh.
What?
Okay. Wait, Grasp didn't beat. Grasp only beat Dive.
Yeah, and Nu obviously wasn't planning on. Was planning to use it on her offense.
Or was
confident.
Or was just presenting the threat and didn't have it. Because notably, Luminous Slave does draw a card, so it's useful to present a threat and then just hope you draw into it, try to make the opponent respect it. In this case, solid Wild Swing there.
Yeah, Spike Chaser isn't the most respectable attack anyway, so...
Helios keeps losing Ultras to sweep effects.
Yeah. I did say before the game, before I knew I was commentating, I made myself biased. I'm sorry. I said I'd like to see Petersonian win because I'd like to play against him in round 3.
Gotcha.
He and I friends.
Well, in that case,
I'd also like to play against Helios, but
in that case, I'll have to root for Helios.
Yeah.
Obligatory.
I do feel bad for him. Like he's not playing poorly. The cards are just not being kind.
Yeah, I will say I'm surprised that you can bring yourself to root for a new player. Because not that Petersonian's a new player, but he's a new player.
I didn't know he had her in his team.
Ah, I see. Okay, well there you go. There goes the conflict. All right, so Nu exceeded last turn. Helios prepped, and now it's back to Nu. Her attacks have plus 0 to 4 range, which means everything in her kit hits here. She can play whatever she wants. And she plays Grasp and has multiple hit effects to mess with. So she pulls 1 and then advances 3 to get out of the corner, and also forces Rachel to miss. This is really good.
I felt like it was Grasp. Grasp there is so good.
I was honestly feeling the Sword Dance or the Spike. So actually, Electric Chair lost to everything except the Sword Dance there. So I guess Helios called the Sword Dance.
And even Sword Dance, it doesn't do great against.
This is true, but you get to trade. Well, five damage in a card is pretty important at this life total. It's a lot better than just losing. All right, Rachel closes 2 and preps.
And Rachel keeps doing that, and I can't say it's a bad idea, but it's not enough to catch up. You're gonna need a big turn. Like the preps could be, you've got a lot of hand filtering, getting an EX, a surprise EX that wins a strike.
Yep,
would be huge.
I think probably throwing some boosts into play, like maybe a Whirlwind to threaten. Sorry, not Whirlwind, but the boost on it. Which is speaking of EXs,
Impish. That's maybe calculable.
This is Sword Dance, right?
Low in deck.
Oh no, wait, hold on. I think we saw a Sword Dance drop.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's a second spike drop. That's bad for Rachel.
Alright. So, how do you do this?
You probably don't advance. You probably just push too. Because there's no way to make it so that you actually get the advantage off of it, so...
Yeah. You might as well.
Yep.
5 speed there.
Yep.
That was
pretty risky.
Yeah. You don't have to be on curves.
Yep. Notably, Rachel is 1 damage short because I think didn't account for the EX +1. Alright, Rachel runs back into range 2, meaning New's at range 3 this turn. I'm not so sure about that. Draws a card. Well, it's legal to do that. It's unwise.
Yeah, I suppose CC0 does still exist.
Yeah, that was almost certainly forgetting that you get an action after getting your overdrive effects. But it's a perfectly legal mistake to take the CC0 action.
Which is the only reason I'm okay with it still being in the game.
Perfectly legal mistake. Alright, we have a strike. We have nothing in particular... Well, we have a lot of stuff down, actually, but we have nothing in particular being telegraphed, in my opinion. At most, this telegraphs Super Rage, which loses to Whirlwinds. So it's basically, is this a on-curve or is this a mid-speed? Calling a mid-speed. And calling successfully. That was a Spike Chaser.
That's big.
That's what you need as Rachel. Get some value here.
I had a feeling it was Spike Chaser, but I had no real reason, and I thought it was a bad choice, so I didn't say it.
Fair. I totally thought it was Super Rage. I'm pretty sure there's one of those left. Alright, well,
yeah.
Helios has a shot here to get some value in before New just starts running away again. Notably, New does not have backstep. Both assaults are down.
Yeah, but she does. She has Super Rage, which has Air Dash.
That's true. It advances 3 instead of 4, so it's a little easier for Rachel to catch up.
Retreats. 3 instead of 4.
Yeah. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Initiative.
Though Rachel is down both crosses, which she does keep throwing out her projectiles, which it's pretty fair, honestly. You're not going to beat...
New just walked into the Tempestolia range.
And
I'm really feeling Tempestolia right now.
Yeah, and she is one short of Calamity Sword.
Yep. Yeah, so she boosted aerial backflip, retreat 2. She's not at range 4 or 5. Okay, we're doing this maneuver again. So watch. Copy.
Big fan.
Paste. Combine. Combine. There, shuffle.
Fine.
Yep, there it is. Now Helios can check all 11 available cards.
Never seen this before. I'll be honest, I'm a big fan. This is a quicker way of communicating information. And doesn't risk you accidentally ordering things in such a way that...
So I'm fine with this. Be careful if you play a character with other hidden information. So if you play Arcane or Spectre Knight, they have face down seals. If you play Selinka, Renea, well, actually not Selinka, sorry. So if you play Renea, sometimes Amina, like characters with face down cards in other zones. So like, be careful with those characters, because doing this would actually give away information you're not supposed to give away in those cases. But
that focus makes this going to range 3 way less bad.
We have a sweep focus.
Trades with Tempestolia.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So when we said Calamity Sword, we were talking about this card over here. I'm just going to put it on screen. 2, 3, 6, 7. This is an incredibly good card. It's a reversal. In fighting game terms, in Exceed, that means it is almost always what that means is it's above curve at its appropriate ranges. So at ranges 2 and 3, it is above curve, meaning you can respond with it and be sure you're going to hit.
When I did bring that up, I forgot to account for initiative.
I was about to say this actually in the case anyway because of initiative, but we have some interesting stuff here. There was a Super Rage Live, there was a Straight Dance Live. Okay, I got this right. Let's see, we got block, we got focus, we got sweep. Wait,
there is a Spike
sweep.
Live from Rachel. That's actually big.
That's pretty that's pretty important.
Just play focus.
Yeah, so this is an important mix-up. If this is Tempestolia, focus trades well. Tempestolia is an ultra, I'll put that on screen. If this is Spike, and New calls it with cross, assuming she even has the cross available, which, can't be sure, there's only 3 cards in hand, then New probably just wins the game. I think I would throw the Tempest here.
Focus.
I would throw the Tempest 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Focus, if you've got it, would answer my play at least.
I like it because even if you lose to Spike there, you lose 5 life, but you've kept positioning, right? You're still at range 3. It's not that hard for you to retreat to a range you prefer more. I don't know why you play Spike.
For this exact reason.
Because of that. Oh,
Alright, sorry, I have to step on this one. Petersonian searched the deck and did not shuffle. Alright.
it hasn't mattered, but thank you.
That's not a game state issue, that is a... This could be construed as cheating outright.
Yeah. And we know Petersonian wouldn't do that.
Yes.
Luckily.
This was the correct play, hilariously. This is incredibly risky, right? It loses Spike, it loses Tempest Dahlia, it loses to all the main reads, but it trades up against Whirlwinds.
Oh, yeah, a hell of a read.
Did the job.
I'm still okay playing Focus there, knowing it's Whirlwind now. I'm still like...
Yeah, you still just take one and draw a card, it's kind of whatever. I think the issue there is that, like, now Rachel has advantage and plays the Tempest for free, and you have to... Well, wait, hold on, you still have a sweep up, actually.
And, yeah...
This remains awkward for Rachel, and I think losing that trade is not helping matters.
Well, Tempest beats Sweep.
It does not.
No, it doesn't.
It does not.
Yeah,
nope.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Not at range 3.
Yeah, push up to, then close, as opposed to push to, then close up to. It's the other way. But yeah. Alright, we're initiating. I probably still throw Tempest here. Wins the speed tie. Alright, that's a clean win. And getting advantage again.
Yep, that boost goes away now, though.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, you don't keep it forever.
This is the deciding game of the set. I would say we're less than 3 strikes out from the end of the game.
Yep, I think this is the deciding turn, and I think if Calamity Sword is up, Calamity Sword gets mashed. Because it loses to nothing.
I see no reason. And if you don't have it in hand, I think you Wild Swing.
100%. Yeah, I think Helios... Well, actually, no, I would play a Focus if that was available instead. Oh, there it is. That loses to nothing.
That's game.
Unless there's a block. No, that's game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, even if it hits into block, I think that's still game.
I would agree with that. Because, well, what? You get a turn to retreat and hang out. Yeah. Yeah. Whew. Boy, there was the Focus. There was the sweep. They were in there.
Yeah.
Man, that Spike read on that Whirlwinds was so pivotal.
Phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
I'll be honest, Petersonian won the first game against a friend of ours, first round, and I was a little shocked. I was like, okay. A friend sometimes has some really bad games and sometimes phenomenal games. and so I was like, okay. And then I saw he was matched up against Helios, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit unfortunate. And Petersonian, those Luciya games, and that new game, like that ending of that new game, phenomenal.
Yes.
Very impressive.
Man, I love those
reads. Not to take anything away from Helios, though.
No, this was very stable play with Helios. Let me make a note here. You can't get hard red very often if you play badly. You'll just lose in value. If you're playing well, then you can get hard red. and what we saw was Petersonian going, here's the play you're making. I'll just beat that.
Yeah. And like coming back on Seijun was very impressive.
Oh man, yeah. These were some excellent games. There was a little bit of sloppiness in terms of game state reconciliation, so there were a few errors that you're going to notice. But I think in terms of overall strategy and in turn tactics, this was an excellent example of solid high-level play. Like, mistakes were made, but yeah, that's going to happen.
Particularly in terms of zoning. 3 games where very solid zoning occurred.
Yep, there's so much footsies and so much resource management on display here. I think Helios' strongest skill is resource management, and I think Petersonian has shown very strong instincts in terms of strikes, in terms of when to throw things out, in terms of what to read.
And his boost game was very good. I was just very impressed with his boost and capitalizing on the boosts he played.
Yep.
And now I'm scared that I might have to play Petersonian.
Yep. Love it. All right. Well, whenever the players see or hear this, thank y'all for the opportunity. I'll also thank them in person in a minute. Well, not in person, over Discord in a minute here, for this opportunity. I hope anybody watching, and I hope anybody watching this later, enjoyed watching this set. I had a blast. This was a treat for me. This was really fun. Thank you for joining me, Reggie.
Yeah.